I could go on that one forever. Hi guys, how you doing? Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive, GI Plus. It's Monday evening. We're in the studio. Hey, what are the chances? So we're in the studio. It is great of you to join us. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar, talking about this guitar specifically. There's been some ructions in the comment section, right, about what guitar we're going to be playing tonight. Kim has put the cat among the pigeons by saying, hey, what guitar do you think Nick's going to be playing? You guys are absolutely justified in guessing PRS, because you know I'm a PRS guy. I play PRS all of the time, but I was at Kim's house last night having some dinner, and we played the Pier. The Pier it reminded me of how good it was. So, you know, got a text this morning saying, hey, listen, do you want to play the Pier on the stream? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So, Pier is here. Hey, what are the odds? Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be playing the Pier this evening, but we are discussing hammer-ons and pull-offs. This is part of our Technique Fundamental series, where we aim to improve your guitar playing technique with the minimum of fuss and the maximum of win within the space of an hour. We've been having great success with the picking stuff, with the left-hand stuff. You guys voted on what you'd like for this week's stream. This week's stream came out pretty much 50-50, but it was weighted in the favor of left hand. So we're doing some legato today, because it's kind of a continuation on our fretting hand stream from last week. If you missed that, that's available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed to us on YouTube so we can let you know when we're going live with our streams. We do it every Monday. You guys know the time, but sometimes you forget. Sometimes you're out doing things and you get a little reminder saying, oh, GI is going to go live, and you may choose to log on at that point. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining us. If you're having a good time with these streams, if you're getting use out of the stuff that we're presenting to you, we love doing it. We love giving these streams to you guys for free. We love helping you. I love helping you guys become better guitar players, hopefully helping you navigate through the mistakes that I made without having to make the same mistakes. I love seeing the wins that we get together. If you're enjoying what we're doing and you want to help us keep the lights on, you can go to this URL, which you'll see right down here. This is where you go to get more lessons. It is guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI-plus. That is GI-plus. Says so up here. That's the GI logo. That is going to take you to the GI Plus site, where you can subscribe. You can get so many lessons. It's just an outrageous amount of content from myself, from Tom Quayle, Giorgio Serci, Michael Caswell. Who else do we have in there? Tom Quayle, I've said. Andy James, Andy Wood, Lewis Turner. Who else? Michelangelo Batio, Rick Graham. It's like so many great guitar players. There are lessons from those guys. We're uploading new stuff all the time as well. We've got Sam Bell's heavy metal course we'll be dropping this month. It's going to be February. We're going to be dropping the course. I won't tell you when. I'll let you know on the stream. You'll be the first to find out. Speaking of new courses, of course, Picking Strategies Part 1 has been a roaring success. You guys are getting a load of use out of that. I'll be telling you more about that later on. But before we do that, a couple of other ways you can help us for free. If you want to support these streams, you can give us a thumbs up on whatever platform you're watching on. We need more likes. The algorithm likes likes. So give us your likes, whatever platform you're watching on. We appreciate it. So whether it's Facebook, YouTube, if you happen to be one of the no one who's watching us on Twitch, then, you know, hey, that's great. You can give us a thumbs up if they do that on Twitch too. We're always on Twitch. Nobody watches us on Twitch. But YouTube, Facebook, give us a like. You can also share this with your guitar playing friends. And of course, you can drop your questions down below, because we love your questions. If you have questions, drop them down in the comments, because we'll be answering them later on over the course of our hour together. So before we do that, let's just check in with the stream. Let's see how everyone's doing. We've got some new friends. We've got some old friends. I'm looking over this way because my laptop is here. So that's why I'm kind of like gazing over this way. So we're going to check in with the stream anyway. So let's see who is in the house. Foghornish was the first through the door. No Marcin this week. And there was some concern about it, if you can believe that, right? Foghornish says, evening guys, having some great fun lately with the Ingve style shred fast jam. A down slant picking. Good man. You got it, right? That's what we're talking about with this Malmsteen thing. Playing my Northwest Guitars Partocaster with the DiMarzio X2N and the bridge. The X2N is a really slept-on pickup, right? It's a great pickup. It's kind of, to my mind, it's the DiMarzio version of the Nuno/Dimebag Bill Lawrence pickup. It's their take on it. It's got that kind of honky hot thing. It's very cool. Really, really like it. Sacred Godslayer has noticed that Marcin was not the first through the door, as has PJ. I don't know what's going on. Hacker attack in Poland Hey, who knows? James was in Poland recently, so maybe that's part of the problem. Do you know what it is? James is our cameraman, and I didn't put two and two together. I was like, James has been in Poland, and I'm like, man, you could have given Marcin a call. You guys could have jammed. Who else do we have? Noisy Ninja says, hey all, I might actually get to watch this one live. Hey man, if you do, it's great to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us. Mark Crandall is in the house, says, hi guys, hi everyone. Hi Nick, hope everyone is doing well. Got here in time this week. I'm doing great, man, having a really good time. I've been looking at some nice gear today, some new reviews for the upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive Magazine. Going to be shooting some lessons tomorrow. You won't hear about that for a while because it has to go into the editing stream, but you know, we'll get those out to you in due time. David Yates in the house says, best get a search party on for Marcin. Also, hello Nick, hello guys. Been listening to a bit of Michael Romeo over the last few days. He's otherworldly, I love that ability. It must be so cool. Michael Romeo is a monster. Remind me, I'm going to start this up because there's a cool Michael Romeo lick that I'll show you a little bit later on. It is a lick, but it's very cool. Guys, give me a half second because we're connected by Wi-Fi, so we're losing a little bit of connection speed there. So if you give me a quick moment, we've got a little bit of lag going on. I'm just going to change my connection and we should be good. If you give me just a half second, I'll be right back with you. And we're back. Hopefully that's fixed the lag issues. It's always in the studio where we get these technical issues, but I don't know what's going on. But we're back. That's all good. So anyway, who else do we have? We have some lag, but that's all good. So anyway, who else do we have? We have loads of friends in the house. We actually did have a guest. We have a guest before we started playing. Mark Crandall, guest at Ibanez. Oh, hey, what are the chances, man? What are the chances? We're going to come back to this. Oh, no, these were just after appear. There we go. We're going to come back to that, right? We'll come back to that. So I was talking about Michael Romeo licks. I'll show you a cool Michael Romeo lick as we go on. I'm going to start it up. Kim's in the house, literally in the house. He's next door. We've just been eating pizza, having a good time, and then we realized what time it was, and I dashed back through here, tuned the guitar, and played. Man, magic. David Yates, PJ's agreeing about Michael Romeo. Yeah, Michael Romeo is killer. Who else do we have? We're just going to quickly go through these. So if anybody had guessed Kim was offering a free set of strings, I don't think anyone got it. I don't think anyone got it. I'm going to double check, but we'll see. We'll see. If anybody got it, free set of strings, I don't think you did, but that's okay. That's fine. That's cool. We like that a lot. My friend Jimmy is in the house. Jimmy, it's great to see you, man. It's been a while. Hoping to get over to your neck of the woods sometime this year. That would be cool to come and play back in the Northwest. That'd be wicked. Preston, is the ferret still in Preston? I'm sure it hasn't moved, hasn't like migrated to like somewhere else, but if it's still the venue to play at, we're going to check out going and play in there. So anyway, that's a little thing between me and my friend Jimmy. Justin Ray is in the house. Justin, it's great to see you. Can't wait for the clocks to turn back. It's almost 10 p.m. here. That's crazy, man. Last night, a friend and I went to watch Sting. Oh my God, seriously, crushed by, Sting is the man, right? I'm a huge Sting fan. He's a hometown boy as well. He's a fellow Geordie. But anyway, we've got some guesses, we got some stuff. I'm waffling on, so I'm going to try and get into the meat of this lesson real quick, but there are so many great comments that I want to get into. Cowcat's got a very good observation here, where it says legato is the smooth transition from one note to another, not only the left hand doing weird stuff. I agree. Now, okay, this is an important thing. So we're going to be talking about legato today, but we need to make a distinction between legato sounds, which is literally smooth transitions from note to note, to play smoothly. We need to make the distinction between that and what we as guitar players refer to as legato technique, because you can play using legato technique and sound staccato, or you can play using a picking technique and sound legato. The sound and the technique, yeah, we need to make a distinction between that, but we'll get to that. So it's a very good observation, my man, and one that is definitely worth pointing out. So we're going to quickly dive through a few more. Sacred Godslayer got an interesting one. You guys are talking about the talent thing. David Yates says, I don't believe in being born virtuoso, but I believe some people have indeed an attitude for finding naturally the best method to learn fast. That is interesting. Now, we'll talk a little bit about talent later on. I'm going to keep that for the comments because that is cool, right? We like that. We like that an awful lot. Again, don't forget, if you got questions, drop them down below. We're going to hit that up as we go. So what I want you guys to do for me real quick is I'm going to show you a lick, and I want to I want to. Oh, here we go. This is interesting. Liam Tate is in the house. Hi, Liam. How you doing? New here, but really impressed with last week's closing tune. The English style's intense whittle was epic. AF. Thank you very much, Liam, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. John Max in the house. Last one through the door. Blue Sunlin says, "Is slur legato?" Yes. We'll get to that. Right. I had a thing with that with a second marker when I was working at a university, but we'll get to that. That's another time. Not the university I'm currently at, which is very cool. So what I'm going to do, guys, I want to show you a lick, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to practice it, and I want to know how you approach it. There's a few things we're going to do together. I want to see if there's anything kind of weird that we're doing. So there's a few ways you can skin this legato lick, but I'm going to show you it now. So let's go to the close-up cam 2. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be playing on fret number 10, 8, and 7 on the high E string, but also on the B string. So high E string, B string. Grab your guitars, you're going to need them. What we're going to do is we're going to cycle from the highest note on the E string to the lowest note on the B string, and then back again like this. So on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to give you any more information than that. It's 10, 8, 7 on the high E string, 10, 8, 7 on the B string. I want to know a few things from you. We're going to cycle that lick, but what I want to know is I want to know how often you're picking. Are you picking every string? Are you transitioning with hammer-ons from nowhere? Any of that stuff. I also want to know if you're using hybrid picking at all, but this is the big thing. I want to know if you're able to play it cleanly fast. I want to know if the hammer-ons and pull-offs are equally easy, or if one is more difficult than the other. And I also want to know if you're doing pull-offs going this way, or if you're actually doing hammer-ons like this. We'll talk about that when we get back. So that's our lick. I want you to practice it. I'm going to give you a quick second. In the meantime, in case you want some stuff to kind of like accompany our legato practice for the day, here's a course on picking that you might find interesting. This is Picking Strategies Part 1. It's our latest course. I want you to check this out. There's some fast, clean playing here if that's the sort of thing you're into. This is how you do it with a pick. Today we're going to talk about how you do it with legato. But when we come back, we'll dissect that lick. Drop in the comments whether you're picking, where you're picking the strings, what you find easier, the hammer-ons versus the pull-offs, whether they're about the same, whether you can play it cleanly, whether you have any issues, whether you're doing hammer-ons in descent. I want to know how you play this lick. Quick reminder, it's just this one here. When we come back, we're going to take a look at that lick, but in the meantime, this is Picking Strategies, Part 1. Does your picking feel uncoordinated and sometimes you miss notes or fluff transitions from string to string, maybe a little bit like this? When in reality what you want is smooth and easy and transparent feeling picking, a bit like this. Or maybe you've been sold on the idea that there's one specific way that you have to pick on the guitar and everything else is wrong, but that particular cookie cutter approach just doesn't work for you. It feels unnatural. It almost feels like you're fighting your own body to try and make it work. Well, Picking Strategies Part 1 is the course for you. In this course, we explore the many different ways that you can form a full and complete and comprehensive picking approach by examining the various strategies used by some of the greatest pickers of all time. And there are a whole bunch of strategies out there, and I guarantee there is one that is going to work for your preferred picking mechanics, the way you prefer to stand or sit with the guitar, the type of guitar you play, the type of music you play, there is a strategy for you. We're going to explore all of them, and I'm going to show you how you can take a single solo study and play every line within it using all of the 6 picking strategies that we look at in this course. And of course, this entire course is available as part of your GI Plus membership. So if you're not signed up already, what better excuse do you need to sign up today? So there you go, guys. That's a look at picking strategies part 1. Really valuable course if you want to get the best out of your picking technique. That's the place to go, but that's not what we're talking about today. So you guys have been answering the question over the last couple of minutes while we were looking at that trailer of what you do when it's time to play this lick. So if anybody's just joined, this is what we're doing. We're playing this line, rotating through these 3 notes on the E string, 3 notes on the B string. Really simple stuff. We're just kind of like vacillating between them. And I was asking you guys where you pick, what you find easier, what you find harder. There's been a lot of great answers. We're going to get into this, right? Here's an interesting one. So let's get right to the top. So who do we have? So our first comment, let's see, was from John Mack. John Mack, first to the door, picks the first note on each string. Perfectly viable strategy. Who else do we have? David Yates picks the first note on the E string, but everything else is hammer-ons and pull-offs. That makes sense. Brain Dog says, pull-offs are easier by far. A weak sound with hammer-ons. Now that's interesting, right? Mark Crandall says, picking once every time I change strings, pull-offs going down, hammer-ons going up. Cool, that makes a lot of sense. We're getting a pretty consistent answer from people, which is good, which means we're kind of all on the same technical page here. Tony Gonzalez says, no picking, just hammer-ons and pull-offs. That's cool. PJ says, I pick all starting with a downstroke, i.e. every string, and then picks the first, 4th, and 9th notes. That's interesting. But I'm willing to bet that's probably just 4th and 9th once it starts rolling. So you're probably going to pick it here, then pick again, pick. Now, the phrasing is an interesting one here as well that we'll talk about because we're phrasing this in groups of 5. That's another story for another day. We'll get there. Marcin says, I pick the first note on every string. Sometimes hybrid pick the string below. That's a cool one for that. I like the hybrid picking thing an awful lot. Blue Solomon says, pull-offs are easier. Yeah, that makes sense. Marcin says pull-offs are easier too. We've got a great question from Obscure Guitar by Skip Newman. I'm going to answer that in the Q&A. So I've started that up. We're coming back to that, my man. We'll get to that. Cowcat says, first picked. If the second string is picked, there's some synchro issues, but some effort is needed for the hammer-on the second string. Now, I agree with that. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. We're going to troubleshoot all of these things as we go, because there's some technical points we can use that will help us get the best out of this. Who else do we have? Tony Gonzalez says, I can hybrid pick or normal, all pretty comfortable. Very good. That's good to know because that means you have options. It means you have options in terms of the sound because even with this, quite a lot of gain on the go here, you guys can hear there is a distinct difference between this and this. There's a big difference in terms of the sound there. So, Tony, you got options, and that is good. We're going to talk about that. Noisy Ninja, Cranky Tom tends to pick the highest note. Noisy Ninja says, pick first note, pull off and hammer from nowhere, and then pick the first note going back. That's interesting. So, I'm guessing when you get back to the E string, that's where you pick the note. That's cool. That's interesting too. Jimmy, Ferret's still there. Good stuff. We like that. pull-offs going high to low, hammer-ons going low to high. Cool. So nobody's doing anything weird here, which is nice, as far as I can see. We got some of them. And Scott Wake can show. My friend Scott's in the house. Scott, there was a whole thread about this, right? Kim's brought the Pia in today, so I'm playing the Pia. It's cool, right? It's a nice guitar. I wish I'd worn the matching shirt, like when we did the review. That was purely accidental. But anyway, looks like a Steve Vai guitar with a handle. Tell us about the hardware on today's guitar. Great guitar. Great guitar. We do like it. So anyway, listen, we'll get to that. So anyway, let's get into the meat of our hammer-ons and pull-offs thing. So first of all, we need to define our terms. Now, Cowcat raised this earlier on, where we said there's a distinction between what we'd call legato technique on the guitar, which is the act of playing using hammer-ons and pull-offs, and legato sounds on the guitar. Now, there's a difference here. Legato sounds are things that sound smooth and connected. And you can do that with a pick if you play very joined up. By contrast, we can play using hammer-ons and pull-offs and have it not sound very connected. So if you've ever seen like Nuno Betancourt or Rick Graham or these guys that do the muted legato thing, it's kind of an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms when you do this sort of business. Because it's not legato, it's staccato. We're playing using left-hand stuff, but it's not a legato sound, it's a staccato sound. So that's an interesting thing in and of itself. And by contrast, we can pick in a way that is very joined up. Boom, missed that last note. Very joined up and very smooth. So we make a distinction between the sound of legato and the sound of and the technique of legato. So I guess we can redefine this as, what are we making the sound with? Are we making the sound with, Guthrie Govan talked about this, right? Are we doing the sound of plastic, which is plectrums, or are we doing the sound of meat, which is it's something that's not a plectrum? In my estimation, these are the two sounds that you can make on the guitar. You can hit the note with a piece of plastic, you can hit the note with a piece of yourself, if that makes any sense. And legato technique, as far as we're concerned, is sounding notes with a bit of yourself. And I feel like hybrid picking is a natural extension of that. So when we're doing hybrid picking, people will ask, like, what's the point in hybrid picking? Why don't you just get better at alternate picking? I'm like, well, it sounds different. It's got a sound. It's got a smoother sound than picking, because there's no at the start of the note. It has some technical benefits too, but it also has a different dynamic profile. It's capable of a bigger dynamic range at either end of the spectrum, and pardon me, the way the dynamic interacts with the note is different. We're getting off on a waffle now, so let's talk about as far as our left hand is concerned. There are two techniques we can use here. We can use a hammer-on, we can use a pull-off. Let's talk about what they are. So hammer-ons, this is one of the most, not the most misunderstood techniques when it comes to playing the guitar, but it's, you know, we miss a crucial detail when we talk about hammer-ons. What people think about hammer-ons as is we think about hammer-ons as slamming our finger down very hard onto a string, right? We slam our finger hard onto the string and that makes the sound. That's part way to being true. So we're going to do some hammer-ons, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to pick the G string, and then we're going to hammer on onto fret 4. We'll then pick the G string again, we're going to hammer on onto fret 5. We'll hammer on to fret 6, and then onto fret 7. We have a finger for each of these. 4, 5, 6, 7. Fingers 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do this real quick. We're going to get some drums up. What tempo do we have? We don't want to do it at 180. That's the last backing track I played. We probably want to do it a little more conservative. So let's do it somewhere around here. Let's do the slow jam drums. Let me know if you can hear these drums okay. I can't hear any drums at all, not a sausage. I don't know why that is making no noise. In fact, I do. Let me just quickly fix it. Perfect. Nice, that's better. Okay, so let's play like this. We're going to play the open G string and then hammer on. I'm going to go to a clean sound. Hammer on onto fret number 4, like this. We're going to play. So we pick, and we hammer on. Now, what's going on when we do this? Technically, we are doing the thing where we slam our finger onto the string with reasonable force, but that's not the thing that's making the sound. right? We can't just put our finger on the string and expect a sound to happen. Here's evidence of this, right? I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to do it somewhere over the guitar's pickup. We'll make a sound, sure, but it probably won't make a note, like this. So it's not the act of actually hitting the finger on the string that makes the note, it's the act of hitting the string onto the fret that makes the note. This is an important distinction, right? It is an important distinction because what we're trying to do when we do our hammer-ons is we're trying to make the string make forceful contact with the fret. But once it's made forceful contact with the fret, we don't really need to keep pressing that hard. Now what we're looking for here is not so much pressure, we're looking for, let's call it velocity, let's call it speed. Let's say if we hit the string with a good amount of speed, with a rapid, like explosive attack almost, it's going to contact that fret in a very positive way. It's going to make a nice loud note. So what I want you to do, we're going to do this again, and those of you that have been having trouble with hammer-ons, we're going to try this together, right? We're going to play the G string, but I want you to focus on the impact of the string on the fret, rather than the impact of your finger on the string. Let's try it like this. Let's go. And then we'll go again. Let's keep going. And we go. Bear in mind I'm playing a clean sound here. We'll go again. Let's do finger 2. Fret number 5. We go. And again. Let's keep going. Now what you'll find with this is there is a part of your finger that is best positioned to make this impact happen. Now this is probably going to be the bone of your finger. We've talked about this before, right? But the bone of your finger, here's an interesting one. Sacred Godslayer says equals MC squared, so speed is more important than mass. That's what I think when I do hammer-ons. I'm not going to unpack that because not a physicist, but you know. Anyway, that's our hammer-on. Now, your hammer-ons, if you take this approach, should be, if they're fast and snappy when you hit the string, they should be nice and loud. You should be able to do them from nowhere. So we're going to do that again. Let's try this time. Same deal. Here's an interesting one. Velocity is a better word than speed. That is the one I used. That's why I chose it. But Nick's absolutely right. Speed is distance in a given time. Velocity is distance in a given time, in a given direction, which is the entire foundation of technical control. Nick with the wisdom. We like that. So we're going to do this again. But this time what we're going to do is we're not going to pick the G string at all. We're just going to hammer on and see if we can create a nice powerful note. But once we've done it, we're going to pick the note. So we'll play a hammer on to 4 and then pick it. If you've done well, we should hammer, pick, hammer, pick, hammer, pick. We should be able to get the same volume from our hammer that we do from our pick note. So let's try that, right? Let's throw some drums on. Let's see if we can get this happening. Let's do hammer, pick, then again, hammer, pick, then again, hammer, pick. One more time, hammer, pick. Let's keep going. Then we go. I want to know, let me know in the comments if this is working for you and if there are any fingers that are maybe letting you down a little bit. For me, the third finger was letting me down a bit there, which was unusual because the third finger it's kind of the main finger. It's the one we use for everything, but we'll get to that. So this approach of using velocity rather than strength to make our hammer-ons happen is going to enable us to play faster, snappier, and ultimately louder, clearer hammer-ons, which is what we want. Now, if you're having difficulty with moving fast, here's an interesting one. John Mack says, is it best to hammer just behind the fret? I don't think so. I don't think so on a modern, well-set-up electric guitar. I'm going to show you where I do it. Let's go to the close-up cam. So you'll notice when I've talked about this before, I don't think it's best to play just behind the fret. I play closer to the fret than not, but it's not like here. So what you can see there is if I play this, I'll move the pick out of the way. If I play right on the fret, there's a chance a bit of my finger is going to roll over the fret and give me this dull tone. as opposed to the brightness we get from playing just a tiny bit further back. So for me, I feel like that's one of those canards that people talk about all the time where they're like, oh, you should play right up against the fret. I don't think it's true. I would play somewhere, if you had to put a figure on it, I would say somewhere about 2/3 of the way along the fret, but we don't need to be super anal about it. I just wouldn't contact the fret with my finger. That's the thing. So we talked about this when we talked about the cues last week. We talked about the idea of concentrating on the feeling of string on finger, but trying not to feel string on fret, trying not to feel finger on fret and trying not to feel finger on fretboard. So we're feeling finger on string, and that's going to give us this good placement. So if we're working on this speed quality that we're looking for, this velocity quality, you can spend a bit of time imagining what that might feel like. What would it feel like to move your finger really fast and snappily, like tapping your finger on a table? Do me a favor real quick, just take your left hand and just tap it on the top of the guitar like you're impatient, like that. That feeling is very similar to the feeling of a hammer-on. It's an impact. We're not pressing, we're not recoiling and then hitting, we're just allowing our fingers to use their natural weight to do the hammer-on thing. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's move our hammer-ons into some groupings. So we're going to go from finger 1, let's play the open string, and then we'll play finger 1, 2, 3. Easy enough, right? We're going to get this. Let's see how easily we can play this together. Let's go. We go. So we're in frets 4, 5, 6. Sounds a bit strange at this point. We're going to try and keep it in time with that velocity thing. Notice I'm not pressing terribly hard. I'm just hitting fast. Very effortless. That's what we want. Next thing we're going to do, instead of fingers 1, 2, 3, let's do fingers 1, 2, 4. So let's go fret 4, fret 5, fret 7. Let's go. This should still feel pretty easy. We're working on that snap, that feeling of velocity. Let's do fingers 1, 3, 4. And again. One more time. Once more. Let's do fingers 2, 3, 4. And again. That one's harder. And again. Once again. Last one. Now, we can start to string these together. So let's do them consistently with 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is just to get us used to this feeling of using the velocity of the finger to make the hammer-on happen. It's almost like a tap, if that makes sense. Let's do fingers 1, 2, 4. And away we go. Nice. So here's an interesting one. And correct me if I'm wrong with this, right? So I'm going to step out of my field of expertise here. You guys are saying the pinky needs work. The pinky delivers less impact. 9 times out of 10, for me at least, the pinky has the furthest to travel. Now, I wonder if that's something to do with it, where maybe the pinky has further to travel, so it has more work to do, but it also has more time to accumulate momentum. You can swing a pinky in a way that you can't swing an index finger, if that makes sense. Yes, the pinky is small, but the pinky is, if we talk in terms of like boxing, let's say, your index finger is your jab, and your pinky finger is like a straight right. It's got a long way to go and a lot of time to accumulate some momentum. I don't know. I'm just spitballing at this point. So we're going to move away from that, but that's our hammer-ons, right? So if we have hammer-ons working with this strike kind of sensation, this tap onto the fret kind of sensation, and we let the impact of string on fret produce the sound, we got it, we got it. Obscure Guitar by Squip Newman, the drums are at 105 BPM, 105. So if you wanted to progress this, that's where we begin. So let's talk about pull-offs. Now, pull-offs are an interesting one because pull-offs, We got some physics going on in the comments, which I love, and I don't understand any of it. Not a sausage of it. So anyway, let's talk about pull-offs. So pull-offs, there's a couple of ways we can do it. Now, I want to go back to the analogy of the pull-off as playing the guitar with a part of yourself. So we talked about the idea of pick versus fingers. Let's do some right-hand stuff. What I want you to do is we're going to play a couple of notes. We're going to play, let's do some blues stuff. Let's play an A minor pentatonic. We're going to play G fret number 5, and then we're going to play D fret number 7. We're going to play this with a pick first of all, right? And let's just play it pretty much free form, but we'll go like this. There's a rhythm, that works. Okay, let's do it with a finger. And I want to know what you do with this. Play it with a finger. There's two potential ways we could play this, two potential ways we could sound this. Don't use your thumb, use any finger from your right hand. Now, I want to know in the comments, when you play this, are you brushing the note and using the friction of your skin to sound the note? Or are you plucking the note, where you pick the string up and use the sound of the string impacting the frets to produce the note? Listen to the difference. This is the sound of brushing the string, using friction. The string doesn't impact the frets. This is the sound of plucking, where I pick up, okay, I've got a float and trem here, which is kind of somewhat artificial. I'll try and dampen that. You might think about that as popping. I want to see what you do, right? Some people pluck it, some people brush it, right? Let's experiment, right? There's our notes. Here's the close-up cam. We've got some brush, we've got some pluck. Let's try both. Let's try deliberately plucking the top note, brush the second note. This is why I don't like Floyd's, because you can't pop on them. So we do pluck, brush. Let's change. Let's do brush, pluck, brush, pluck, brush, pluck, brush, pluck. Let's play one, but let's play it really fast. Let's go like this. Let's go with one finger. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Let's try brushing. Let's pluck. Brush. Then pluck. Okay, now that's interesting because if you've been doing this, right? If you've been doing this, here we go. Right, awkward turtle. We're going to get back to this, but if you've just joined us, we've literally just answered that question. Right, we'll get back to that. But congratulations on picking the guitar up. You've made a great choice. It's an instrument that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. It's going to bring you plenty of joy over the airs. You will crack this. You will get this, right? It's not some mystery thing that only like mythical creatures can get. You will get this. You're going to nail this, right? So well done. Stick with it, man. You're going to get this. So anyway, we'll get back to that. So anyway, this plucking versus brushing thing, we do that with our right hand. When we're doing pull-offs, we have the same options with our left hand. We can brush, we can pluck, brush, pluck, third finger, brush, pluck. There are times for both. Check it out. This is some plucks. Let's go to the close-up cam. Just going to freeform this. So close-up cam. We're playing a Steve Vai guitar, so it's only appropriate where we play this sort of thing. Hear those really big kind of plucks. That's our pluck pull-off. Now, the two ways we can do this. Our pluck is a very cool and very loud and characterful note. We want to be able to do that if we're doing it for an effect. However, if our goal is speed and efficiency, we want brush. We want to use the friction of the finger to create the sound. Now, this has some implications technically, but we can begin with just the sensation. So if you go back to this brushing analogy, if you try brushing a note as quickly as you can with one finger in your right hand, we can brush with a lot less effort and a lot more quickly than we can pluck with a right hand. This requires some effort. That we can do really fast. And they both produce a loud sound. So what I want to do is I want to get into the realms of brushing versus plucking. Let's go back to our drums. Right, what we're going to do here is I want to do some pull-ups, just like we did with our hammer-ons. G string, it's finger 4 on fret 7, finger 3 on 6, finger 2 on 5, finger 1 on 4. Let's play pinky finger, and then we're going to brush to sound the G string. So use the friction of the finger to brush the open string. We go. Let yourself experiment with this a few times. You'll find an angle that works. Again. Once again. Let's do third finger. Again, big brush to sound that string. Second finger. Again. First finger. Let's do 4, 3, 2, 1 with the open string like this. And just find that sensation of brushing. We're not pulling on the string. We're using the friction of our finger, the callus that we've built over these years of playing, to scrape the string and create a brushing feeling. Let's try it a little faster. Let's go like this. This time, let's try plucking. Let's go. Where we try and grab the string and pull off as forcefully as we can. Hard to do. Pulls the string out of tune a little bit. A little challenging. Let's try doing it quickly. Let's try going like this. Yeah, it does a bit. It sounds like the DI for the guitar solo from the Crow film. This is the DI recording, terrible. So anyway, let's try and combine this with some other fingers. So let's try doing, real quick, let's try rotating some fingers where we begin with finger 1. Let's play finger 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, with the rule that we're only allowed to pick the very first notes. We can get energy back in the string when we hammer on, but we're going to use a brush to execute our pull-offs. No plucks, just brushes. I could do this forever, right? Because it's really easy. This is not me having some kind of crazy conditioned hands or anything. I'm just using an easy technique. I'm using a brush and a strike rather than a hard press and a powerful pluck. I could do that. It's tough. My hand gets tied up in knots, right? You know, it's not something that works terribly well for playing quickly, so let's try it. Here we go. Back to our hammer-ons. We are going to fingers 1, 2, 3. Let's go to the close-up count 2. Finger 1, 2, 3. Fret 4, 5, 6. Remember, focus on the feeling of striking and then brushing. We're going to focus on the feeling rather than the sound. The sound will come. Focus on that brush. Let's change the fingers 1, 2, 4. Here we go like this. What you'll probably find is the pinky finger is actually really good at doing pull-ups. Because it's got further to do that big brushing movement. It's got more room to move. Let's do fingers 1, 3, 4. Here we go. Fingers 2, 3, 4. That's a little more challenging, but it's still doable. And on it goes, on it goes. Now, I think I've had a lot of success with this when I've taught students this in person. I think you're going to have success with it too. So when it's time to play your hammer-ons and pull-offs, the hammer-on is easy. Hammer-on is always just a strike on the string. It's not the sound of finger hitting string, it's the sound of string hitting fret. Pull-offs, we have two options. We can do a pluck for character. We can do a brush for speed. The brush is all we need for speed the pluck has kind of a character to it. It goes meow. Alan Holdsworth hated that, by the way. If you really cannot get the hammer-on thing working, the pull-off thing working, you have other options that we'll talk about another time. You can do the hammer-ons in Descent, but nobody defaulted to that in the comments, so we're not going to discuss that today. That's another thing we'll talk about another time. So we got some questions, right? We got some great questions on we go. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick minute. I'm going to show you guys this too. So this is the course that we've been we put out a little while ago, but I want to remind you that it exists because this is a really great course that is totally different to the stuff that we're doing here. It's not all technique courses in GI+, it's not all technique and theory. We have this one too. This is my friend Ian Simo. This is Slide Guitar for Standard Tuning. I wanted to remind you this exists. It's a really great course. If you're just done with the technique thing, I don't think you are, because nobody's ever done with it. And you're here to talk about legato technique, so of course you're not. But you want a little something different, this is the course for you. When we come back, we're going to be answering your questions. I'm leaving plenty time for it, because I had to cut it short last week, so I'm leaving lots of time for questions. We have a bunch of them already. Drop them in the comments. If you haven't done so, drop your questions down below. We'll be answering them when we come back. But in the meantime, Slide Guitar for Standard Tuning looks, sounds like this. You want it, you know where to get it. GI+, here it is. That ain't it. Here it is.
Hi, my name is Ian Simo and I'd like to share with you my course on slide guitar for standard tuning. This is a 10-part series in which we're going to explore the essential slide hand techniques and pick and hand techniques. We're also going to take a look at rhythm playing with the slide. So we're going to look at how to integrate the slide with major and minor triads. Really enjoyed putting this series together. It comes complete with some backing tracks for all of the example phrases and exercises so you can practice along, and it comes complete with tablature and notation for all the example phrases and exercises. So if you've been interested in getting into slide, I highly encourage you to check out this course, this 10-part series on slide guitar for standard tuning.
There we go, slide guitar for standard tuning. I got my slide out while I was watching that. If you guys have been keeping an eye on the reviews we've been putting out, you might have noticed, that, I mean, I've been a slide dabbler for a long time, but my slide playing has gotten notably better over the last, I mean, like I'm doing it on Kim's Pier right now, and you can't really play slide on a Pier, or can you? You can play slide with loads of gain too. I've been getting better at slide because, no lie, I've been doing Ian's course, right? I had it made because I wanted to learn slide from Ian, right? So I thought, you know what, let's make a course. I've been doing it, right? So it's a great course. I've been studying it. I've been getting loads of use out of it. I think you will too. So we've got some great questions coming in, real good. We're going to start at the bottom end because we've had some good ones Oh, you know what? I missed one. I'm going to tag this one in too. So first of all, Braindog says, does legato work if you have low volume and not much distortion? Yes, because I'm doing it right now. So not much distortion. Back the guitar's volume down so it's even less distorted. We're at a volume that I can talk over. Like, you can probably hear the sound of the pick over the sound of the string. And then I said Ian's course. Get your mind out of the gutter. That's hilarious. I probably did actually. I probably fluffed it up. I've been talking all day, and my talking muscle never really wears out, but you know, it's pretty close to wearing out. Anyway, legato. Yes, it works at very low volumes with no distortion. You just have to focus on the strike and the brush, and it's good. So yeah, for sure, it definitely does. But it's a good question, because people often associate legato with distortion. It helps to have a little compression on the signal, but you can even play with a sound like this clean. And you can still play legato stuff. It works. It does work. So, okay. Tom Quayle's lazy first finger syndrome, your thoughts? We talked about this last week. It's a very good question. So I think I'm going to try and speak for Tom here. I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think the lazy first finger syndrome is an interesting one, and I think people have maybe got the wrong end of the stick with it. I think it's very important to be able to take your first finger off the fretboard at any given point. Your finger should not be welded to the fretboard, but you're allowed to keep it down if it facilitates what you're trying to do. So as long as you're able to do it, you know, able to get that first finger up in the air, you're gold. You don't have to. You're not beholden to do it after every note. I don't think, personally, and I don't do it after every note. But Tom's the greatest, you know, one of the greatest modern legato players in the world, and I am not. So maybe maybe there's something to it. But I think there's also an awful lot of practice that's gone to it. I don't think it just boils down to that one thing. So anyway, you know, so I don't always get the first finger off. Sometimes it's easier not to, but you should be able to when you need to. So I think it's worth practicing. It's a very, very good lesson. I would definitely check it out if you haven't done so already. Worth your time. So we're going to come back a little bit further up. So very, very quickly, Blue Sunland said, is slur legato in notation? Yes. We don't really make a distinction between slurring on the guitar, i.e. blurring notes together using hammer-ons and pull-offs, and legato. You can consider them synonyms. They're synonyms, but there will be an exception that we don't need to get into today. There'll be, you know, pedants out there who'll say, well, actually, on this rare occasion, it's this and not this. But in most circumstances, yes. So here's an interesting one, right? Sacred Godslayer says, I generally prefer hammer-ons from nowhere. Picking throws my timing off a bit. My problem is sliding when I do legato, as my fingers seem to lose strength. Now, I think, I've toyed with this myself. I think what happens when the fingers lose strength when we slide, when we change positions like this. For example, I'll go to the close-up cam, we'll show you what we're talking about. So an example might be something like this. Whose idea was it to do a stream on legato on somebody else's guitar? Anyway, it's a great guitar, I'm only joking. I think what happens is we don't so much lose strength, but we lose the snappiness in our finger by pressing a little too hard to secure the position shift. I think the trick with this is to keep your position shift touch very light. And the way I like to do this personally is I like to almost lift the brakes on my thumb. If you imagine the thumb as the brakes on a train, so your fingers are a train on a string. When you get to the next, you know, you move to the next platform or whatever, you move to the next station, you take the brakes off. And when it's time to shift, we take the brakes off the thumb. This does not mean that you lift the thumb off the fretboard. It just means you consciously or at least you try to release as much of the pressure as you can, and then you don't get that pressure back on until you're at the position that you want. I've played with this myself, and I've found that thumb pressure was the thing that was causing this problem. So I want you to experiment with that. I think that's a good idea. Obscure Guitar by Skip Newman. Hey Nick, I'm looking for what new students should start with to get into legato. I think new students should start with improvising with legato. And I think the thing to do with it is to get them to improvise, not with running passages, but to get them to improvise using legato as a coloration technique. So maybe something like this, where you might take, let's take some drums. Let's imagine we're playing it in A minor. You might get them to improvise with the idea of playing. This sort of business, where we don't use hammer-ons as a device for playing long, or hammer-ons and pull-offs as a device for playing long strings of notes. Instead, we use it as a way of getting quickly from one note to another and then stopping. It gives them an opportunity to explore the technique without having to string loads of it together, but it's also a cool musical device. So they get to make music with hammer-ons and pull-offs. That's probably where I would start, but every student's individual, so people's goals are different. That would just be a generic answer, but it's a cool place to begin. Here's another one, right? So D40 says, should I be using the brush technique when doing 2 notes per string at speed, like using my left hand to do most of the work? I think so, as much as you can. In fact, probably more so when doing 2 notes a string, when doing this kind of like, I don't know, let's say this Zakk Wylde lick where you go. Those kind of Gary Moore type things. They're very athletic things to do on the guitar, right? I'm not so great at that 2-note string stuff. My hand tires out very quickly, so I want to make it as efficient for myself as I can. I am very much trying to use that brush technique as much as I can there. As tempting as it is to pluck, it just tires me out. Liam Tate says, is brushing more of a pull-up when pluck is more of a pull-down? I don't think so. We're not brushing up over, so we're not doing this, where we brush towards the ceiling. Rather, we're fretting the note, and then as we remove the finger, we pull towards the floor, but we use the skin of the finger to brush the string, just like doing this, but in the opposite direction, and that's where we get the brush comes from. John Mack says, how about muting strings, Nick? Well, muting strings, a few ways you can take care of it. I feel like with legato technique in particular, the right hand has a lot of responsibility for muting the strings. And it's almost like we try and create a little tunnel with the right hand where we kind of like, I'll try and show you down the camera if I can, where I try and create a tunnel for the string that I'm trying to play on. And sometimes I'll lift off other parts of myself to, you know, let the other fingers get on if I need to, if I'm doing hammer-ons from nowhere. But the right hand takes care of most of it. Sometimes we use the skin of the left hand fingers laid flat across the strings that are like higher than the one we're playing on. That makes sense, but the low strings, it's taken care of with the right hand. This is another place where hybrid picking is useful, because hybrid picking really facilitates muting. So if you're playing with a hybrid picking style, you can kind of, I'll show you on this camera again. So we can kind of keep our finger in place until it's time to play the string we're after. And it almost has muting baked into it, which is why hybrid picking is so good for slide. I think a very good question, a very good question. Sacred Godslayer's got a good one. Says, my question is related to the lesson. I was watching Rick Graham's course, and he said, here's a vamp in a static A minor 7. And said, so it's Dorian. And Sacred Godslayer wants to know if that's, is it because it's used the brightest scale? I don't think it's because of that, but it's coming from the same place. So generally speaking, the reason we choose Dorian over an A minor 7 is the only difference is, in this case, Dorian would contain this note. Aeolian would contain this note. Listen to how unpleasant that is to hold on to. star A compared to this. I'll play these two notes as well to make the A minor 7. Close-up cam so you can see. Here's the note that's in Dorian. Here's the note in Aeolian. It's a bit nicer when you play like that because it sums to like an F major 9, but generally speaking, we choose Dorian as a default unless we have other information because all of the notes have more of a chance of sounding nice. That's basically it. We can get more into that another time. I think that is very, very valuable. So a few more questions coming in. We're going to try and get through as many of them as we can. Let's just quickly get on this. Jason Grant says, your slide playing sounds amazing. Nick, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. But I really urge you to check out Ian's stuff because Ian's a master at this stuff. But thank you. I really do appreciate that. That's very, very kind. Jimmy's got a question. Kind of unrelated question to this, so feel free to ignore, but would you ever do a technique session on Brent Hines? Let me show you something, right? We got this kicking around today, as if we don't have enough amps. Haha, new Victory Sheriffs. If you guys haven't checked these out, they are phenomenal. Outrageous, right? So I am not beholden to, I'm a Victory artist, I'm doing a bunch of videos for this, but I'm not on video time, so I'm not on review time, and I'm not on promo time, so I can say this with, I take this for what it's worth, because I'm a Victory artist, so I'm biased. That's a Friedman killer. Just said it, right? And I've played it, it is, and the big one even more so. And what's more important, the guys in Mastodon are using them too. So if we did, we're gonna use one of them, right? Just take that clip out of context. I'm a Victory artist, I'm so biased, right? I'm so beyond biased. So I'm saying that it doesn't matter if it's true or not. You can just totally ignore me. Feel free to ignore me, but that's my actual opinion. So anyway, let's keep going. We got maybe one more question if we've got time. Let's keep going. We got, here's a good one, right? Regarding low action. I just need to find the question. Let's dig the question here, right? How low should your action be? Says the Tony Stramella Band. Here we go, another one. We got some comments on this. EVH had famously low action, says my friend Craig. We got a bunch of other stuff too. Marcin, very quickly. What's your rig tonight? Quad Cortex, baby. So because we're in the studio, so it's the Quad Cortex. That I couldn't take the Kraken with me because it's too big. So anyway, yeah, how low your action should be. Here's an interesting one, right? Probably not as high as you think it should be. I can tell you where I set my action personally. I am more of a stiffer strings, lower action kind of cat, personally. There's a relationship, there's a give and take between string gauge and action. If you err on the heavier side with strings, you can generally get the action lower with less rattle. If you err on the lighter side of strings, that's cool, but you may need a slightly higher action. I set mine at 1 millimeter on the 12th fret on the high E string and 1.5 millimeter on the low E string. Where did I get these figures from? Well, first, they feel comfortable, but secondly, there's been some documents that Steve Vai and John Petrucci's guitar techs have shared recently, last couple of years, and that's where Steve Vai has his action. That's where John Petrucci has his action. They can play a bit, so that's where I have my action, and it feels pretty good. Now that's quite low. It's pretty low, and I play slide on that action. It's a preference thing. I do not buy into the idea that a higher action gives you better tone. In actual fact, I generally find, certainly live with distortion, the little sizzle you can get from a lower action actually helps with articulation and helps with cut. However, there is an interaction between player and action height. So what I would suggest, this is where I'm going to go with this, is you should set your action to a point where when you apply a comfortable minimum pressure, you fret with some clearance to spare. So what that means is you should be able to fret without effort. You should be able to fret with a very light touch. If you cannot do that, your action may be too high. If you have to press and you feel muscles in the hand activating, the action may be a little too high. If, by contrast, you can fret totally effortlessly, but you're getting rattle, take it up a little bit, take it up a notch until you get to that point where, I actually have to put some effort into fretting. and then back it down? Maybe that's a way of putting it. It's a very good question. It's very personal. I think that's the deal. And I did say that EJ had famously low action. Malmsteen's action is unbelievable. It's so high. And when he says I play with a high action, I'm like, yeah. It's just a high action relative to the, like relative to the fretboard, but not relative to the fret because he has scallops. No. This action's like that. It's crazy. Like I could conceivably fit my whole arm between his strings and like the 21st fret. Like, no lie. It was outrageous. So, it's a thing. So anyway, guys, listen, that's been a talk on our legato technique. We will continue this. This is not the one and done on legato, but we're not continuing it next week because next week we're back on the pick and hand, right? I'm going to be back in this in my little studio, back in the pick and hand. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive and GI Plus. Let's jam out some more. I am not going to do the Malmsteen one, but I think I'll do... let's do one of my favorites, man. I'm going to get rid of... This is the one I was playing at the start was one of my favorites, but I'm going to do one of my absolute favorites. This is our ambient ballad. It's an E major if you want to play along. It's just lovely. It's a really nice track. We can chill, but it's a lovely tempo where you can really burn if you want to. My name's Nick Jennison. If you haven't done so already, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, but consider going to the URL that I'm going to reveal right now because Q&A time is over. There's the URL. Go there to get some more lessons. New lessons coming. Sam Bell's metal course is dropping this month. Picking Techniques is in there. Ian Simo's course is in there. I have the Ultimate Guide to Melody and Phrasing. I have mastering modes. I have expressive techniques, picking strategies, practice templates is coming. All about arpeggios is coming. Mastering modes, extra resources is coming. So many courses coming this year. Sam's is the next one. You know what to do. Go there, get some courses. Thank you so much for having us. We'll see you next week, 8 p.m. UK time. Set the reminder. Don't forget. Make sure you've got the bell icon on if you're watching us on YouTube. Here's some E major. Play along if you feel like it. I think you should. Why not? Let's jam together. I'll see you next week. I'm looking around because I feel like I'm going to play my slide. Why not? We've got slide. Let's play slide. Let's do slide and legato. That's good fun. So much fun. I can do that all day. My name's Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive, GI Plus. Thank you so much for having me. I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, this reminder is what you get with your GI Plus membership. I nearly showed it before. I'm going to show you it now. See you next week. My name's Nick Jennison, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you GI Plus, the brand new lesson platform brought to you by Guitar Interactive. We've assembled a team of the best players and educators in the world to bring you exclusive lessons covering everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length exclusive country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from fusion maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Or perhaps you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 60 feature-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. You get all this along with exclusive live webinars, free backing tracks, competitions, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for GI Plus today. Hi guys, Nick Jennison with Guitar Interactive and GI Plus. Does your playing sound like this? When really you'd like it to sound like this? Now, the difference between these two examples are not the notes that are being played, but rather the way the notes are being played. I'm sure you've heard this before. Guitar players will say to you, it's not what you play, it's how you play it. And when it comes to creating interesting, emotive, and musical sounding guitar lines, that is very much the case. And in this course, Expressive Techniques Part 1, we aim to equip you with the tools to sound more musical, more emotive, more interesting, and ultimately more expressive on the guitar. And we are going to do this by exploring the three principal left-hand expressive techniques, which are slides, bends, and vibrato. I'm going to show you the mechanics of these techniques and how you can execute them cleanly, efficiently, and reliably. I'll also give you some exercises to help develop these techniques, and we're also going to discuss some musical applications, how you might use these techniques in your own playing. We're going to go into great depth with that stuff, and I'm also going to give you a solo study, a piece of music I've prepared, and I'm going to encourage you and kind of guide you through the process of applying expression to an otherwise expressionless and bare sounding piece of guitar playing. So at the end of this course, you are going to be able to take otherwise uninteresting and fairly dry pieces of music and turn them into expressive, colourful, musical lines. And you're also going to be able to take this and apply it to your own playing or to other people's music that maybe you're playing and you want to express in your own way. This is Expressive Techniques Part 1. My name is Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive and GI Plus. I hope you'll join me. I will see you in there. Modes. What are modes? How do I use them? When do I use them? Well, modes are one of the things that the pros use to add excitement and colour to their guitar parts, and there is no reason why you can't use them too. Now, for some reason, people, especially certain online guitar teachers, love to make modes seem complicated and scary, but I'm here to tell you they really aren't. And in fact, if you know the pentatonic scale, I can show you how to play modes with just 2 extra notes. In this course, I'll show you how to play careless sounding guitar solos using modes without any of the mystery. You'll learn how to play musical sounding solos all across the neck in any key, crucially without sounding like you're just running up and down scales. So, if you're ready to take this next step with me, click the link to find out more.